Captain Jiwan stood on the bridge of the stellar dawn, watching the yellow star grow larger on the main screen. His blue skin had a pale tint that showed his nervousness. After 3,000 years, someone was finally entering the Sol system. Again. "Captain, we are now crossing the outer marker," reported his navigation officer. The Altarian crew had been quiet for the past hour. Everyone knew the stories about this place. Jiwan touched the communication panel. "All hands, this is the captain. We are now entering the human home system. Remember, we are here to study what remains of their civilization. Stay alert and follow all safety procedures." Dr. Minho looked up from his research station. The Velthari scientist had 4 arms and gray skin covered in small scales. His large eyes showed excitement. "Captain, the energy readings are not what we expected." "What do you mean?" Jiwan asked. "The Federation records say this system should be dead. Nuclear war, remember? But I am picking up active power sources throughout the system." Commander Hyejin moved closer to the main screen. Her wings were folded against her back, which meant she was worried. The Zephyrian had sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Could be leftover automated systems. Some alien technology can run for thousands of years." "Maybe," Dr. Minho said, but he did not sound sure. The ship moved deeper into the system. Everyone had expected to find floating rocks and dead planets. Instead, they found something very different. "Captain," the sensor operator called out, "I am detecting large structures near the 4th planet. They appear to be intact." Jiwan frowned. "Intact? After 3,000 years?" "Yes, sir. And they are generating power." The bridge fell silent. According to every history book in the galaxy, humans had destroyed themselves in a great war. They were supposed to be a young, violent race that could not control their aggressive nature. The Federation had marked their system as a dead zone and forbidden entry. "Take us closer," Jiwan ordered. "But keep our weapons ready." As they approached the 4th planet, Mars, the crew saw something impossible. Massive orbital platforms surrounded the Red World. They were clearly artificial, but they looked nothing like the primitive technology humans were supposed to have. "Those platforms are huge," whispered the communications officer. "Each one is bigger than our largest space stations." Dr. Minho was working frantically at his station. "Captain, these structures are not just functional, they are beautiful. Look at the design work. The engineering is incredible." On the screen, the orbital platforms rotated slowly around Mars. They had smooth curves and flowing lines. Solar collectors spread out like wings, gathering energy from the distant sun. Gardens could be seen through transparent sections, with plants still growing after all these years. "How is this possible?" Commander Hyejin asked. "The Federation said humans barely had spaceflight when they died out." "The Federation was wrong about many things," Dr. Minho said quietly. Suddenly, the ship's communication system activated. A gentle tone filled the bridge, followed by a voice speaking in perfect galactic standard. "Unknown vessel, you have entered the Sol system. Please identify yourself and state your purpose." Everyone on the bridge froze. Commander Hyejin's hand moved to her weapon. "Captain, that signal is coming from the platforms." Jiwan took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jiwan of the Galactic Federation vessel Stellar Dawn. We are here on a scientific mission to study human remains." There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again, and there was something like amusement in it. "Human remains? How? Interesting. Please proceed to coordinates 847.3 by 221.7. A docking facility will be prepared for you." "Docking facility," Hyejin said. "Captain, this could be a trap." "A trap set by whom?" Dr. Minho asked. "Humans have been extinct for 3,000 years. The voice spoke again. "We understand your confusion. Many things have changed since your people last visited this system. Please do not be afraid. You are welcome here." Jiwan looked around his bridge. His crew was scared, but they were also curious. This was the discovery of a lifetime. "Follow their coordinates," he ordered, "but keep our shields up." As the stellar dawn moved toward the coordinates, more impossible sights appeared. They passed by Earth, the human homeworld. Instead of the burned wasteland they expected, they saw blue oceans and green continents. Cities sparkled on the night. Side of the planet, their lights forming patterns too organized to be ruins. "The planet looks alive," the sensor operator said. "That cannot be right," Commander Hijin said. "Scan again." "I have scanned 5 times, Commander. Earth shows all signs of a living world. Atmosphere is perfect for human life. I am even detecting organized agriculture and what appears to be managed forests." Dr. Minho was practically vibrating with excitement. "Do you know what this means? Humans might not be extinct at all." "Or something else has taken over their world," Hyejin said darkly. They reached the coordinates and found a space station unlike anything in Federation records. It was massive, easily 50 times larger than the biggest Federation outpost. The design was smooth and organic-looking, as if it had grown rather than been built. "Stellar Dawn, please dock at Port 7. Atmospheric conditions will be adjusted for your crew." "They know what kind of air we breathe," the communications officer said nervously. "How could they know that?" Hyejin asked. Jiwon made his decision. "Take us in. We came here to learn about humans. It looks like we are going to learn more than we expected." The docking was smooth and automatic. Systems on the station linked with their ship without any input from the crew. As soon as they were secure, the station's voice spoke again. "Welcome to Luna Station. I am the facility's controlling intelligence. Please feel free to explore. You will find many things here that your historians did not know about humanity." Dr. Minho was already heading for the airlock. "Captain, we have to see this. This changes everything we thought we knew about human civilization." "Wait," Commander Hyejin said. "We should send probes first. Test the atmosphere." "The atmosphere has already been tested and adjusted," the station's voice said. "You will find it quite comfortable." Jiwon looked at his crew. Fear and excitement warred on their faces. He made his choice. "Dr. Minho, Commander Hyejin, and 6 security officers will come with me. The rest of you stay with the ship and monitor everything." They passed through the airlock and entered the station. The corridor they found themselves in was nothing like the rough, industrial human construction they had expected. The walls were smooth and warm to the touch. Soft light came from everywhere and nowhere, illuminating artwork that covered the surfaces. "This is not primitive technology," Dr. Minho breathed. "No," Jiwon agreed. "It is not." They walked deeper into the station, following lighted pathways that seemed to anticipate where they wanted to go. They passed through vast chambers filled with equipment they could not identify. Some machines hummed quietly, working on tasks they could not guess. "Captain," one of the security officers called, "you need to see this." They followed him to a large window that looked out into space. Beyond the glass, they could see other structures scattered throughout the system. Some were clearly ships, but ships far larger than anything the current galaxy could build. Others defied easy classification. "How many are there?" Hyejin whispered. "I count at least 200 major installations," Dr. Minho said, "and thousands of smaller ones." The station's voice spoke again. "You seem surprised by what you have found here. Perhaps your people's records about humanity are not as complete as you believed." "Where are the humans?" Jiwon asked the air. "That," the voice said, "is an excellent question. Come with me, and I will show you the beginning of the answer." Lights in the corridor began moving, creating a path deeper into the station. The Federation team followed, each step taking them further from everything they thought they knew about humanity and closer to a truth that would change the galaxy forever. The lights led them to a huge room filled with strange devices. Dr. Minho had never seen technology like this, and he had studied the works of a dozen different alien races. The machines were quiet, but clearly active, with displays showing data, in languages he did not recognize. "What is this place?" Commander Hyejin asked, her hand still near her weapon. "This is a memory chamber," the station's voice explained. "Here, the history of humanity is preserved. Your people have many questions about what happened to the humans. Perhaps it is time you learned the truth." In the center of the room, a device began to glow. Light formed in the air above it, creating shapes and images. Suddenly, the Federation team was looking at a human face. The hologram was so real they could see individual hairs and the slight movements of breathing. The human in the image had dark hair and kind eyes. When he spoke, his words were translated into Galactic Standard, but they could hear the original human language underneath. My name is Dr. Marcus Chen. If you are seeing this, then other intelligent life has finally found our system. We have been waiting for this day. Dr. Minho stepped closer to the hologram. Waiting? But humans are extinct. The image smiled. That is what we wanted you to think. The room around them changed. The walls became transparent, and they found themselves looking out at Earth as it had been thousands of years ago. But this was not the primitive world from Federation records. This Earth had cities that reached into the clouds, ships that moved between the stars like birds, and technology that made current galactic civilization look simple. This is impossible, Hyejin whispered. Dr. Marcus Chen's image continued speaking. 3,000 years ago, humanity detected something terrible coming toward our galaxy. We called them the Devourers. They were a race that consumed entire star systems, turning all matter and energy into more of themselves. The scene changed again. Now they were looking at space, but space filled with dark ships that seemed to eat light itself. Where these ships passed, stars went out, planets crumbled to dust. The Devourers had destroyed 17 galaxies before reaching ours. We had perhaps 50 years before they arrived. The other races in the galaxy were not ready for such an enemy. Most barely had space travel. Some had not even discovered fire. Captain Jiwan felt cold, despite the station's comfortable temperature. What did you do? We made a choice, the hologram said. We could not save the galaxy by fighting openly. The Devourers were too strong, and the other races too weak. So we decided to disappear. The images showed human ships leaving Earth in vast numbers. But they were not fleeing in panic. Everything was organized, planned, careful. We spread false stories about our nature. We made ourselves appear violent and primitive. We created fake evidence of a great war that destroyed our civilization. Then we left, taking our technology and knowledge with us. Dr. Minho's mind was racing. You made yourself look extinct so the Devourers would ignore this part of the galaxy. Exactly, Dr. Chen said. The Devourers were attracted to advanced civilizations. They would consume the most developed races first, then work their way down. By appearing dead, we hoped to make our galaxy look worthless to them. But where did you go? Captain Jiwan asked. The scene changed once more. Now they saw human colonies hidden in empty star systems, built inside asteroids, tucked away in nebulae where sensors could not find them. We scattered. Some of us stayed, in hidden bases within the galaxy, watching and waiting. Others traveled beyond, to nearby galaxies that the Devourers had not yet found. We began preparing for their return. Commander Hyejin was studying the images with her sharp eyes. Return? You said they ignored the galaxy. For now, the hologram admitted. But the Devourers follow a pattern. They consume the obvious targets first, then return later to clean up what they missed. We estimate they will come back within the next 100 years. The room fell silent, except for the quiet humming of machines. The Federation team looked at each other, trying to understand what they had learned. Show me more, Dr. Minho said. The hologram nodded. This is only the beginning of the story. Come. Let me show you what humanity has been doing for the past 3,000 years. New images appeared. They showed human scientists working on weapons that could destroy stars. Human engineers building ships larger than moons. Human soldiers training for a war that would decide the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. While the rest of the galaxy developed slowly and peacefully, we prepared for war, Dr. Chen explained. We knew the Devourers would return. We knew that when they did, we would be the galaxy's only hope. Why should we believe this? Hyejin demanded. For all we know, you are the threat. Maybe humans are planning to conquer the galaxy themselves. The hologram looked sad. That is exactly what we expected you to think. It is why we stayed hidden for so long, but recent events have forced our hand. What events? Captain Jiwan asked. Instead of answering directly, the station's voice spoke from all around them. Long-range sensors have detected the return of Devourer scout ships. They are still far away, beyond the edge of our galaxy, but they are coming. Dr. Minho felt his legs grow weak. How long do we have? Perhaps 5 years, the station replied. Maybe less. The images around them changed, again showing the current state of galactic civilization. Federation worlds with their small defense fleets, trade routes protected by outdated patrol ships, and diplomatic councils that spent more time arguing than preparing for threats. Your people are brave, Dr. Chen said, but you are not ready for what is coming. The Devourers will sweep through this galaxy like fire through dry grass. Unless what? Jiwan asked. Unless humanity comes out of hiding. The room went dark for a moment. When the lights returned, they were looking at something that took their breath away. It was a ship, but calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a hill. It was vast beyond imagination, bristling with weapons they could not identify, surrounded by smaller vessels that were themselves larger than Federation battleships. This is the human dawn, Dr. Chen said with pride. Flagship of the human fleet. It took us 2,000 years to build her. How many ships do you have? Yejin whispered. Enough, the station said simply. Dr. Minho was shaking with excitement and fear. We have to tell the Federation about this. They need to know. Yes, agreed Dr. Chen's image. It is time for the truth to come out. But first, you must understand what you are asking. If humanity reveals itself, everything changes. We cannot go back to hiding after that. What do you need from us? Captain Jiwan asked. Your help, the station said. Not in fighting. You could not stand against the Devourers for even a moment. But in preparing your people for what is coming, in convincing them to trust us when we reveal ourselves. The hologram of Dr. Chen stepped forward. Captain Jiwan, Dr. Minho, Commander Hyejin, you came here looking for the remains of a dead civilization. Instead, you have found the guardians your people never knew they had. The question now is, what will you do with this knowledge? The 3 Federation officers looked at each other. They had come expecting to find ruins and artifacts. Instead, they had discovered that everything their people believed about human history was a lie. And now they learned that their galaxy's survival depended on the very race they thought was extinct. We need proof, Hyejin said finally. The Federation Council will never believe this without proof. Of course, the station agreed. But first you must see more. You must understand the full scope of what humanity has built. Only then will you truly comprehend what we are offering. There is more? Dr. Minho asked. Much more, Dr. Chen said with a smile. What you have seen so far is just one small research station. The real preparations are hidden much deeper in the system. New lights appeared in the corridor, creating a path toward another part of the station. Come, the station said. Let me show you humanity's true legacy. As they walked deeper into Luna Station, Captain Jiwan realized that his simple scientific mission had become something else entirely. They were no longer just exploring the remains of an extinct race. They had become witnesses to the galaxy's hidden history and participants in its uncertain future. Behind them, the hologram of Dr. Chen watched them go with ancient, patient eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall while waiting for this moment to arrive. The station led them through corridors that seemed to go on forever. Dr. Minho noticed that the walls were showing them images as they walked. Pictures of human colonies scattered across thousands of star systems, factories hidden inside hollow. Asteroids and research stations tucked away in the dark spaces between galaxies. How many humans are there, really? He asked. More than when we supposedly went extinct, the station replied. We have been growing and preparing for 3,000 years. They reached another chamber, this one even larger than the first. At its center stood a figure that made them all stop in surprise. It looked human, but it was clearly artificial. Skin too perfect, movements too precise, eyes that glowed with inner light. I am Admiral Kyung-min, the figure said, bowing slightly. I have been waiting a long time to meet representatives of the galactic community. You are an artificial intelligence, Commander Hyejin observed. I am, Admiral Kyung-min agreed. I was created to command humanity's military forces during their absence. I have been doing so for the past 2,000 years. Dr. Minho stepped forward eagerly. Command what forces? How many ships do you have? Instead of answering, Admiral Kyung-min gestured toward the walls. They became transparent, showing them space around Jupiter. What they saw made their minds struggle to understand. Hidden among Jupiter's moons were structures so massive they dwarfed entire planets. Shipyards stretched for millions of kilometers, filled with vessels in various stages of construction. Some ships were longer than Federation space stations. Others had weapons that looked like they could crack moons in half. "We have been building for 3,000 years, Admiral Kyungmin explained. "Every day, every year, adding to our strength." Captain Jiwon felt dizzy looking at it all. "Those ships, they are huge." "Size is necessary when fighting the Devourers," the Admiral said. "Their bioships grow by consuming matter. Small vessels are simply absorbed and turned into more enemy units." The view shifted to show other locations throughout the solar system. Near Saturn, massive ring-shaped stations rotated slowly, each one crackling with energy. Around Uranus, geometric structures that hurt to look at directly seemed to bend space around themselves. "What are those?" Hyejin asked, pointing at the geometric structures. "Weapons," Admiral Kyungmin said simply. "Humanity learned that conventional physics are insufficient when fighting an enemy that can reshape matter at will. Those stations manipulate space-time itself." Dr. Minho was recording everything he could. "This technology? It is beyond anything in the current galaxy." "Yes," the Admiral agreed. "It had to be. We studied the Devourers for centuries before they arrived. We learned that they could adapt to any conventional attack within moments. So we developed unconventional methods." The view changed again, showing them the edge of the solar system. There, hidden behind a false asteroid field, lay the largest construction they had seen yet. It was a sphere, perfectly round and smooth, easily the size of Earth's moon. "That is the Nexus," Admiral Kyungmin explained with obvious pride. "From there, I coordinate all human military operations across 17 galaxies." 17 galaxies, Captain Jiwon whispered. "The humans who left this galaxy did not sit idle," the Admiral said. "They have been fighting the Devourers for 3,000 years, learning their weaknesses, developing countermeasures. This coming battle will not be their first." Commander Hyejin was studying the massive sphere. "What happened in those other battles? Did humanity win?" Admiral Kyungmin was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes, the Devourers are not invincible, but they are incredibly dangerous. In the Andromeda campaign, we saved 60% of all life. In the Whirlpool Galaxy, we managed 80%. "And the rest?" Dr. Minho asked, though he feared the answer. "Gone," the Admiral said softly. "Consumed, turned into more Devourers." The room fell silent. The Federation team was beginning to understand the true scope of what they faced. "Why are you showing us this?" Hyejin asked. "What do you want from us?" "Your help," Admiral Kyungmin replied. "Not in fighting. As I said, your current military technology could not harm a Devourer scout ship, but in preparing your people for what is coming." The images around them changed once more, showing Federation worlds with their peaceful cities and undefended populations. "The Devourers will arrive within 5 years," the Admiral continued. "When they do, every living being in this galaxy will become a target. We can protect most of your worlds, but not all. Some will need to be evacuated. Others will need to be defended by their own people." "You are talking about turning our entire civilization upside down," Captain Jiwon said. "Yes," Admiral Kyungmin agreed. "I am. The alternative is extinction." Dr. Minho was still trying to process everything he had learned. "How do we know you are telling the truth? How do we know this is not some elaborate deception?" Admiral Kyungmin smiled, an expression that looked strange on the artificial face. "Follow me." They walked to another part of the chamber, where a small viewing screen showed empty space. But as they watched, something began to appear. It was subtle at first, just a slight distortion like heat waves rising from hot ground. But then the distortion grew stronger, and suddenly a ship materialized out of nothing. The ship was sleek and graceful, clearly human design, but unlike anything in their historical records. As they watched, its hull became transparent, showing them the interior. Inside, they could see beings moving around, beings that looked exactly like the humans from ancient Federation databases. "The Wanderer," Admiral Kyungmin announced. "Returning from a patrol mission in the Magellanic Clouds. Captain Nari should be contacting us shortly." As if on cue, the communication system activated. A human face appeared on the screen, a woman with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much. "Admiral, this is Captain Nari reporting. The clouds are clear, but we detected Devourer sign in the void beyond. They are definitely coming this way." "Understood, Captain. We have guests." Captain Nari looked at the Federation team with curiosity. "Aliens? Finally ready to reveal ourselves?" "That decision is being made now," Admiral Kyung-min replied. Dr. Minho stepped forward. "Captain Nari, I am Dr. Minho of the Galactic Federation. We thought humans were extinct." Captain Nari laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "We have been too busy to be extinct. Fighting monsters that eat stars does not leave much time for being dead." "Could you show them the recordings from Kepler 442? Admiral Kyung-min asked. "If you think they can handle it," Captain Nari replied. The viewing screen changed, showing space around a distant star. At first, everything looked normal. Then the Devourers arrived. They came in ships that looked like living things, if living things could be the size of moons and made of metal and flesh combined. Where the ships passed, space itself seemed to wither. They approached the star and began to feed on it directly, draining away its light and heat. "This was 2 years ago," Captain Nari explained. "We arrived too late to save the system, but we managed to destroy the Devourer fleet before they could reproduce." The screen showed human ships attacking the bio-vessels. The battle was unlike anything the Federation team could imagine. Weapons that tore holes in space-time clashed with creatures that reformed themselves from pure energy. Ships the size of cities fought beings that could swallow planets. "We lost 3 vessels in that engagement," Captain Nari said quietly. 700 good people." Commander Hyejin watched the battle in horrified fascination. "How many times have you fought them?" "This will be our 47th major engagement," Admiral Kyung-min replied. "We have learned much about their capabilities and weaknesses." "Weaknesses?" Captain Ji-won asked hopefully. "They adapt quickly, but they adapt predictably," the Admiral explained. "They cannot understand concepts like sacrifice or cooperation between different species. They expect every race to act purely for self-preservation." "That gives us an advantage," Captain Nari added from the screen. "They never expect allied tactics or coordinated strategies between different races." Dr. Minho was thinking rapidly. "That is why you need the Federation. Not for our military power, but for our diversity." "Exactly," Admiral Kyung-min said with approval. "A galaxy where dozens of species work together is something the Devourers have never encountered. It confuses their strategic calculations." The images around them shifted one final time, showing a representation of their entire galaxy. Red markers appeared at its edge, the approaching Devourer fleet. Green markers scattered throughout showed human positions, and blue markers, far more numerous but much smaller, marked Federation worlds. "This is the situation," Admiral Kyung-min said. "The enemy approaches with overwhelming force. Humanity stands ready to defend the galaxy as we have for 3,000 years. But we cannot do it alone. We need the Federation to trust us, to work with us, to help us turn this galaxy into something the Devourers cannot consume." Captain Ji-won looked at his crew. Dr. Minho was practically vibrating with excitement and terror. Commander Hyejin looked grim but determined. "What would you need from us?" Ji-won asked. "Time," Admiral Kyung-min replied. "Time to reveal ourselves properly. Time to coordinate our forces with yours. Time to prepare your people for what is coming." "And if the Federation refuses to cooperate?" Admiral Kyung-min's expression grew sad. 6 weeks had passed since the Stellar Dawn returned to Federation space with the most important news in galactic history. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been meeting non-stop, and the arguments could be heard 3 levels, down from the council chambers. Captain Ji-won stood outside the great meeting hall on the Federation capital world, waiting to be called in for his 10th testimony. Dr. Minho paced beside him, clutching a data pad filled with technical information that most council members could not understand. "They still do not believe us," Dr. Minho said for the 100th time. "Some do," Commander Hyejin replied from her position by the window. "But they are afraid." Through the great windows they could see ships arriving from every corner of the galaxy. Federation Council members, military commanders, scientists, and diplomats were gathering for what many were calling the most important decision in galactic history. The council chamber doors opened, and Ambassador Yeji emerged. The Trilaxian diplomat looked exhausted. Her usual calm expression was replaced by obvious stress. "They want to see the recordings again," she told them. "Which recordings?" Dr. Minho asked. "All of them. The Luna Station encounter, Admiral Kyungmin's briefing, the Devourer battle footage. Some council members are convinced this is an elaborate human deception." Captain Ji-won felt frustrated. "How can they think it is a deception? We have shown them proof." "Fear makes people think strange things," Ambassador Yeji replied. "The idea that humans have been secretly protecting the galaxy for 3,000 years is difficult to accept. It means everything we thought we knew was wrong." Before anyone could respond, alerts began sounding throughout the building. Emergency broadcasts filled the air in dozens of languages. The message was simple but terrifying. Massive energy signatures had been detected at the galaxy's edge. Something huge was approaching. Commander Hyejin's communication device activated. "Commander, this is Admiral Sojin of the Federation Defense Force. Report to the command center immediately. Bring your data on human military capabilities." They rushed through corridors filled with panicking officials. The command center was chaos. Screens showing star charts, communication stations trying to reach defense fleets, and military officers shouting orders. Admiral Sojin, a veteran Korthian commander, looked up as they entered. "The long-range sensors have confirmed it. The Devourer scout fleet has arrived early." Dr. Minho felt cold. "How early?" 3 years early," the Admiral replied grimly. "They will reach the outer colonies within weeks, not years." On the main screen, they could see the sensor readings. Dark shapes moved between the stars at the galaxy's edge, each one larger than a Federation battleship. There were hundreds of them. "Can our defense fleet stop them?" Ambassador Yeji asked. Admiral Sojin's expression said everything. "Our most powerful weapons would barely scratch their hulls. If the humans are telling the truth about these creatures, we need their help immediately." Captain Ji-won stepped forward. "Admiral, I can contact Luna Station. Admiral Kyungmin said they would be ready." "Do it," Admiral Sojin ordered. The communication took several minutes to establish. When Admiral Kyungmin's artificial face appeared on the screen, he did not look surprised. "We detected their arrival," he said before anyone could speak. "The Devourers are moving faster than predicted. We must activate emergency protocols." "What protocols?" Admiral Sojin asked. "The return protocol," Admiral Kyungmin replied. "It is time for humanity to come home." Across the galaxy, systems that had been dormant for centuries began to activate. Hidden bases revealed themselves. Cloaked ships decloaked. Human colonies that had been secret for 3,000 years sent out identification signals. The Federation. Communication networks went crazy as reports poured in from every sector. Human settlements on worlds thought to be uninhabited. Human research stations in nebulae marked as empty space. Human ships emerging from asteroid belts that surveys had shown contained nothing but rocks. "There are thousands of them," whispered a communications officer. "Tens of thousands," Dr. Minho corrected, watching the data stream. Admiral Kyungmin's image nodded. "This is only the beginning. Stand by for the main fleet." Space around Earth began to change. What had looked like empty vacuum shimmered and twisted. Slowly, massive shapes began to appear. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of ships materialized out of nothing. The largest ones were beyond description. They were not just ships but mobile cities, bristling with weapons that bent light around themselves. The smallest ones were still larger than Federation battleships. "How did we not detect them?" Admiral Sojin asked in amazement. "Human stealth technology is 3,000 years ahead of your sensors," Admiral Kyungmin explained. "We have been hiding in plain sight." A new voice joined the communication. This one belonged to a living human with gray hair and calm eyes. "This is General Tajin of the Human Defense Force," the newcomer said. "I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary. We are now ready to reveal the full scope of our preparations." The screen split to show different views throughout the galaxy. Human fleets were emerging from hiding everywhere. Some came from the cores of gas giant planets, others uncloaked from behind moons and asteroids. A few simply appeared in space where nothing had been detected before. "We have been preparing for this day for 3 millennia, General Tajin continued. "Every human in the galaxy has trained for this moment." Dr. Minho was trying to count the ships, but gave up after reaching 10,000. "How many people are you talking about?" "Current human population across all colonies is approximately 200 billion, the general replied calmly. The Federation Command Center fell silent. 200 billion humans, all trained and equipped for war against an enemy the Federation had never faced. "We do not have time for lengthy negotiations," General Tajin said. "The Devourer scouts are already approaching your outer worlds. We can stop them, but we need your immediate cooperation." "What kind of cooperation?" Admiral Sojin asked. "Access to your defense networks, coordination with your fleet commanders, permission to establish temporary bases on strategic worlds." "And if we refuse?" General Tajin looked sad. "Then we will do what we must to protect the galaxy. But many more worlds will fall than necessary." Ambassador Yeji leaned forward. "General, you must understand our position. You are asking us to trust a race we thought was extinct, to allow military forces we knew nothing about to operate freely in our territory." "I understand completely," the general replied. "If I were in your position, I would have the same concerns. But I must ask you to look at your sensor readings and tell me if you have any choice." All eyes turned to the main screen. The Devourer. Scout fleet was spreading out as it entered the galaxy. Dark shapes were moving toward inhabited systems at incredible speed. "First contact in 60 hours, reported a sensor technician. "Target appears to be the Kepler 186 system. Population, 4 billion. Admiral Sojin closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his decision was clear. "General Tajin, on behalf of the Federation Defense Force, I am authorized to accept your assistance. What do you need?" "Admiral Kyung Min will coordinate with your forces," the general replied. "But first, we need to show your people what they are truly facing. A devourer cannot be reasoned with, negotiated with, or frightened away. They exist only to consume." The screen changed to show the approaching fleet in more detail. What they saw made several officers step back in horror. The Devourer ships were not just mechanical constructs, they were alive. Hull plating pulsed like skin. Weapon ports opened and closed like mouths. And from each ship, smaller creatures poured out like swarms of insects. "They reproduce by consuming matter," Admiral Kyung-min explained. "Every ship they destroy, every world they devour makes them stronger. This is why conventional warfare fails against them." "What can stop them?" Captain Ji-won asked. "Weapons that destroy them completely," the Admiral replied. "Energy that leaves nothing behind to regenerate from, and tactics they cannot predict or adapt to." General Tajin's image leaned forward. "The Devourers expect every species to fight for itself. They have never faced a united galaxy. If we can coordinate our forces with yours, we can confuse their strategic thinking long enough to destroy them." Admiral Sojin looked around the command center at his officers and the Federation representatives. Fear was visible on every face, but also determination. "What are your orders, General?" "Begin evacuations of the outer colonies," General Tajin replied immediately. "Human ships are already moving to assist. We will establish defensive positions at key systems, and we will teach your forces everything we know about fighting Devourers." "How long do we have to prepare?" "The scouts will reach the outer colonies in 2 days," Admiral Kyung-min answered. "The main fleet will arrive within 6 months. After that, we find out if 3,000 years of preparation was enough," General Tajin finished grimly. As alarms continued to sound throughout the Federation capital, the greatest mobilization in galactic history began. Humans and aliens worked together for the first time in 3 millennia, racing against time to prepare for an enemy that had destroyed entire galaxies. The Age of Secrets was over. The war for survival had begun. The battle for Kepler 186 began 3 hours before dawn on the 4th planet. Captain Ji-won watched from the bridge of a human battleship called Defiance, one of 50 vessels defending the system. Dr. Minho and Commander Hye-jin stood beside, Him, all three wearing human-made armor that felt impossibly light, but promised to stop weapons that could crack mountains. "First wave incoming," announced Captain Nari, who commanded the human fleet. "Remember, do not let any of them escape. If even one Devourer scout returns to the main fleet, they will adapt to our tactics." The Devourer ships appeared like nightmares made real. They were not built, they were grown. Black metal that pulsed with veins of sickly light, hulls that shifted and changed shape as they moved. The largest one was the size of a small moon, and it was surrounded by hundreds of smaller creatures that swarmed through space like angry insects. "My God," whispered Dr. Minho. "They are alive." "More than alive," Captain Nari replied. "They are intelligent. Each ship is a single organism with the memories of every world it has consumed." The human ships moved with precision that amazed their alien observers. Where Federation vessels would have formed defensive lines, the human fleet scattered in patterns that seemed random but clearly were not. Some ships disappeared entirely, only to reappear behind Devourer vessels. Others split apart into smaller units that moved independently. "Why are they not staying together?" Commander Hedgen asked. "Because Devourers expect group tactics," explained a human officer named Jisoo. "They have consumed thousands of species, and most fight in formations. This confuses them." The first weapons fired were unlike anything the Federation had ever seen. Instead of lasers or missiles, the human ships released waves of energy that seemed to unmake reality itself. Where these weapons struck Devourer hulls, matter simply ceased to exist. "Quantum disruptors," Captain Nari explained. "The only way to make sure they cannot regenerate." But the Devourers were fighting back. Their weapons were living things, creatures that could survive in space and burrow through ship hulls. When they hit human vessels, the impacts caused sections of the ship to begin changing, metal becoming organic, systems turning into alien growths. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported the ship's computer. "Biological contamination spreading." "Seal that section and flush it into space," Captain Nari ordered calmly. "Set the quantum charges." Captain Jiwan watched in horror as part of the ship they were on was simply ejected into space and then destroyed by its own crew. "You blew up part of your own ship." "Better than letting the contamination spread," Captain Nari replied. "If a Devourer biological weapon reaches the core systems, the entire ship becomes another enemy unit." The battle raged for hours. Human ships fought with desperate efficiency, using weapons and tactics that seemed impossible. Some vessels fired projectiles that traveled backward through time, striking Devourer ships before they were launched. Others created miniature black holes that consumed entire enemy formations. But the Devourers were learning. With each attack, they adapted faster. Weapons that worked in the first hour became useless in the second. "They are changing their hull composition," reported the sensor officer. "Our quantum disruptors are becoming less effective." Captain Nari smiled grimly. "Good. That means they are taking us seriously. Admiral Kyung-min, initiate Protocol 7. From across the solar system, new human ships began to appear, but these were different from anything seen before. They were smaller, sleeker, and they moved with impossible speed and agility. "What are those?" Dr. Minho asked. "Human pilots," Captain Nari replied with pride. "Our people have been training for this war their entire lives. Now you will see what 3,000 years of preparation can accomplish." The new ships dove into the Devourer formations like arrows of light. They were too small and fast for the biological weapons to target effectively, and their pilots flew with a skill that seemed supernatural. Leading them was a young human woman named Minji. Her ship was no larger than a Federation fighter, but it moved through the battlefield like a dancing flame. She spoke to her fellow pilots in rapid human language that the translation systems could barely follow. "Stay tight on my wings, Sunho," she called to another pilot. "Remember, they adapt to individual tactics but not to coordinated chaos." "Understood, lead," came the reply. "Initiating random pattern 7. The human fighters began to move in formations that changed every few seconds. Just as the Devourers began to predict their movements, the patterns would shift completely. It was like watching a school of fish, but one guided by tactical brilliance rather than instinct. "The main Devourer ship is beginning to retreat," announced the sensor officer. "No, Captain Nari said sharply. "It is not retreating. It is preparing to reproduce." The massive bioship began to glow from within. Its hull started to bulge and twist as new shapes formed beneath its surface. "If it spawns successfully, we will face twice as many enemies," Captain Nari explained. "All units, focus fire on the primary target. Do not let it complete the process." Every human ship in the system turned toward the massive devourer vessel. The concentration of firepower was beyond description. Quantum disruptors, temporal missiles, gravity bombs, and weapons that had no names in any language. But it was not enough. The bioship's hull split open like a flower, releasing dozens of new devourer vessels into space. "We failed," Dr. Minho said in despair. "No," Captain Nari replied with quiet confidence. "We succeeded perfectly." Before anyone could ask what she meant, space around the new devourer ships began to twist. Reality itself seemed to bend and fold, trapping the bio-vessels in pockets of distorted space-time. "Temporal mines," Captain Nari explained. "We let them spawn in a pre-prepared trap. The new ships are caught in time loops. They will repeat the same few seconds forever." Commander Hiejin stared at the trapped vessels. "You planned for them to reproduce?" "We planned for every possibility," Captain Nari replied. "That is what 3,000 years of preparation means." The remaining devourer ships found themselves facing a human fleet that seemed to anticipate their every move. Weapons that had been ineffective minutes before suddenly worked perfectly again. Ships that had appeared damaged revealed themselves to be functioning perfectly. "You were deceiving them," Captain Jiwon realized. "Constantly," Captain Nari agreed. "Devourers learn by observing patterns, so we showed them false patterns while preparing real strategies. Within another hour, the last devourer vessel was destroyed. The quantum disruptors left nothing behind, no debris, no biological matter that could regenerate. The battle was over. System secure," announced Admiral Kyungmin's voice from the fleet communication system. "No enemy survivors detected. Prepare for main fleet engagement." As the human ships regrouped, Captain Jiwon looked around the bridge. The human crew worked with calm efficiency, already preparing for the next battle. These people had been fighting this war for 3 millennia. To them, this had been just another engagement. "How many more battles like this?" he asked Captain Nari. "The main devourer fleet has approximately 10,000 vessels," she replied. "But most battles will not be this easy. The scouts were just testing our defenses." Dr. Minho was studying the tactical displays. "How can you be so calm? This enemy nearly destroyed 17 galaxies." Captain Nari looked at him with eyes that held 3,000 years of human determination. "Doctor, my people have been preparing for this moment since before your civilization reached the stars. We have studied every devourer attack, learned from every defeat, planned for every contingency." "And if you lose?" Commander Hiejin asked quietly. "Then we make sure our sacrifice means something," Captain Nari replied. "But we will not lose. This galaxy has something the others did not." "What?" "Unity," she said simply. "For the first time in galactic history, every species is working together. The Devourers have never faced that before. Across the galaxy, similar battles were being fought. Human fleets worked alongside Federation forces, sharing technology and tactics that had been secret for millennia. The war was far from over, but for the first time since the Devourers had begun their campaign across the universe, they faced an enemy that was truly ready for them. On 1,000 worlds, humans emerged from hiding to stand alongside the aliens they had secretly protected for 3 millennia. The greatest deception in galactic history was over. The age of humanity's return had begun. And in the depths of space, Admiral Kyungmin coordinated the defense of 17 galaxies with the patience and precision that only an artificial intelligence could maintain. The war would be long and terrible, but for the first time in 3,000 years, humanity was no longer alone. The galaxy they had chosen to protect was finally fighting beside them. Captain Jiwon looked out at the stars and realized that everything had changed. Humanity was not the extinct primitive species from the history books. They were the guardians of galactic civilization, and they were very much alive. The real war was just beginning, but the galaxy had hope. And sometimes, hope was the most powerful weapon of all.